Heidi ho, YouTube! Look at me, not wearing any glasses, not wearing a hat because I just got my hair cut now that I'm going to be joining the real world again in the near future. And also, I'm having a hard time waking up today, so just doing basic things seems to be a bit of a chore today. But anyways, the journey that started over 2 months ago is finally over. When the Leafs crapped out, went down in flames in the qualifying round of the NHL playoffs, the end of my Leafs vlogs came about then, but I decided to keep things going with just my thoughts on the Stanley Cup playoffs as they unfolded, because what the hell else am I going to do? Everybody was locked up and locked in, and, other than essential workers and such and all that. So I thought, why not? And it's been an adventure, but it's now over. The Stanley Cup playoffs are over, and the Stanley Cup has been awarded to the Tampa Bay Lightning. I'm not happy about that. The series, as it unfolded, it just began to feel like, yeah, Tampa's going to win. No matter what happens, even if Dallas manages to keep themselves in the series, Tampa's going to take it eventually. They just seem to be faster, crisper, a little more physical, which people thought Dallas was going to be the ones taking it to the Lightning in that regard. And yeah, I don't know what it was. The series started in kind of a mere fashion. Game 1, Dallas won, and they were the better team for the first two periods of the game by far. I think they got up to a 3-0 lead or something like that, and just looked like the way better team. But then in the third period, Tampa finally got going and owned the third period, made a comeback bid, but it fell short, and Dallas did escape with the win. In game 2, it was kind of the opposite. Tampa got out to an early 3-0 lead in the first period, and then as the second period went along, Dallas began to take it to the Lightning, and kind of it was the same as game 1, the opposite. Like, Dallas chipped away and were the better team over the final two periods, but fell short. So it was 1-1 in the early going. But then as the series unfolded from there, it just became apparent that Tampa just had that edge. Game 3 was interesting because Steve Stamkos, who was in the bubble the whole time and who the Lightning expected to get into the lineup at some point, even if it was not until the Stanley Cup Finals, he finally did get into Game 3 in the first period. He only played 2 minutes and 47 seconds or something like that, and that was the end of his night. So he must have tweaked whatever injury it was that he was working on that has kept him out since February. And so in his 2 minutes and 47 seconds, though, he did manage to score a goal. So he did hit the score sheet and make a bit of an impact on that game, which the Lightning eventually took 5-1 or 5-2 or something like that. So, and from that point onwards, it was just Dallas had a lot of injuries to some of their depth players. They looked more fatigued than the Lightning, so they were a bit slower. So, you hear those cliches about what do you have to do to stop this team? Well, we have to take their time and space away. And that's kind of what the Lightning did to Dallas. Their top line couldn't get going. Their depth players couldn't get going either, and you need that in the playoffs. And on top of that, they had a few guys out from their depth core. So, and Khudobin, who's not normally a starting goalie, who got thrust into the spotlight here, who had carried them up to that point, even he started to look tired at points, right? So it just kind of, it just looked like Tampa was going to take it, and they eventually did in 6 games. Dallas was able to take, they lost games 3 and 4, but they took game 5 in double overtime. But last night, Tampa in game 6 was able to close it out with, I think it was 2-0 a victory in the end. And again, Dallas, they had their odd little moments here and there, but they couldn't get things going. Like, they couldn't string passes together. At best, they were just flipping it out of the zone and trying to, just prevent any damage rather than going on the attack and stuff, right? They just looked like they were outplayed for most of the time. So it's too bad because, like I said, I don't like Tampa, and the more and more I watched of the playoffs, the less and less I liked them. So I've been lucky because a lot of teams that I've liked have won the Cup over the last number of years. Chicago's won a few, LA's won a couple. So most years there's a team that I don't mind or actually like winning the Cup, but your luck only lasts for so long, right? So this is the first year in a while where a team I really haven't liked all that much has won. But the only bright side is that Luke Shen, like I said, the former Leaf, now has a Stanley Cup to his credit, which I like. I don't think he got into any games in the finals, but he did play throughout the playoffs in some other series there, and played some key minutes when they had some defensive injuries and stuff. So that's the one lone bright side I have of Tampa winning the Cup. There's other guys I don't mind, like Patrick Maroon. I don't mind him and stuff like that. But for the most part, I don't like that team. And I do like their coach, John Cooper, though. He's one of kind of the more easygoing, fun to listen to coaches in the league. So, good for him for winning. But other than that, I'm not really happy about how things ended up. Lots more guys on Dallas, Sagan and Ben and Corey Perry, of course. Lots of guys there that I would have much rather have seen won the Stanley Cup than Tampa. But yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. It's going to be an interesting next season. This one was strange enough with the bubble and all that stuff, and no fans at the rink, and no fans, no family and stuff for the players in the building. So I've listened to some stuff that Gary Bettman said about the start of the next season, and originally they had like a December 1st kind of date in mind for the start of the 2020-21 season. But that looks like it's going to slip at least into January. And how are things going to look? Because they can't play a whole 82-game regular season in a bubble. For the playoffs, it's one thing, but for a regular season where every team is involved and such, it's that's not really doable. So he said the league's going to have to be fluid and adaptable and be able to change along the way for whatever's going to happen. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And then the other thing is that with everything that's happened, the salary cap isn't going to go up over the next couple years, I think, like it normally would. So teams that are up against the wall in terms of the salary cap are going to have to change their plans a bit, maybe for guys that they were planning on keeping or whatever, or giving raises to, that were coming, on contract renewals or whatever. It's going to be interesting. The Leafs are one of the teams that are kind of screwed because they've committed so much money to their top 4 or 5 forwards, right? And they've got other guys coming up for free agency and stuff. So they've already started by trading Kapanen to the Penguins and dumping his salary and getting some picks and stuff out of it. So I assume they're going to be making more moves, and they've already, I think, been open to taking offers on Anderson and stuff like that, which everybody thought he'd be there for a long, long time, right? So it's going to really change the complexion of what happens to, especially certain teams that are in that type of situation, right? So, and what kind of deals guys are going to get, So for the Leafs, they've got to flip some of these high-paying guys for some defense and for some grit. That's all they need. And I guess it depends on what happens with Anderson too. If he gets traded, or if I don't know if he's a free agent this year, or if he's got another year on his contract. But if he gets traded, if they don't get another similar caliber goalie back, what do they do? Right? They could try and let Jack Campbell run with the starting position, which I wouldn't be averse to, because I think he is the real deal. But we all thought that about Jonathan Bernier too, and look what happened there. Although he didn't have much of a team in front of him to help him out. So, there's all these question marks and stuff like that. So, but honestly, if it were me, I would try and shop Nylander. Nothing against the guy, but he's super soft. He's getting paid way too much. And he's talented offensively. So trade him to a team that's hurting for offense and try and get back a good defensive return for him. And one that you're maybe not going to have to invest so much money in, to try and help out that way as well, right? Because I don't think they should try and shop Tavares, Matthews, or Marner, because those guys are all just too good and in the core of that team. But they need but guys like Nylander, who, at least Tavares and Matthews, although they're very highly paid, they put up a lot of points, and they can also play defense too, right? They're more complete players, whereas Willie shies away from the big hits, shies away from the defensive side, and Mitchie's a lot more responsible too, like a good penalty killer and stuff like that, right? So those 3 guys I think are, part of their untouchables. But anybody after that, other than Riley, I would obviously keep Riley around, and Muzzin too, just because he's one of the lone few physical guys they have, and he's a good defensive defenseman as well. Anybody other than that on the roster, I think is fair game for flipping and trading and dumping salary, whatever they have to do to keep them under the cap, improve the D, and get some toughness on the team, because it's obvious. It's been obvious for years. I mean, we know this. You know, they've slowly phased the guys out, like Martin and Komarov and whatever, and lost these guys, Kadri, Polak, all the guys that added the jam to the lineup. They've slowly phased them out since that first year in the playoffs against Washington, where I think they played their best. They've phased them out and they've fizzled out, right? So it's obvious to me what has to happen, but then again, I'm just a guy sitting on his stool in a basement, and I don't really know anything. So, but that's my 2 cents. And then you get other teams like it'll be interesting to see what happens with Tampa, because they've got a lot of high caliber players on their team that, and I'm sure some of them are going to be due for raises. I'm not sure what their cap situation is right now, but I'm sure they're going to have to address things. So whether we see them come back as competitive next year, it'll be it'll be interesting to see, and then all the other teams around the league, see what happens to them as well. So, but yeah, I hope to be back on the stool in the jersey in January, maybe, if hopefully that sounds like it's going to be right now the earliest next season's going to happen. But as I'm sure with everything else in the world that is going on right now, you have to be prepared to wait and hope, and not be too disappointed when things don't happen, because that's just the way things are right now. So, but I'll keep my fingers crossed for NHL hockey in the winter. And anybody else who watches these videos and loves the NHL too, I hope you keep your fingers crossed too. And we'll hopefully be back soon enough. Sayonara.